cramped, it's noisy, it's completely impractical, and we all love it. Formula One returns to Monaco for its annual Glamour Fest and for round 7 of the World Championship. Hello there, welcome to the highlights of the Monaco Grand Prix. The championship is rapidly developing into a two-horse race, with Britain's David Coulthard gaining ground on Michael Schumacher after his victory last time out in Austria. Coulthard and Schumacher have won the last 2 races round this place, and they put on some fantastic skills in qualifying. The McLarens look good. This is the last chance saloon for Mika Häkkinen's title hopes. He's right on the pace. Michael Schumacher has a few early hiccups before pulling out a stunning lap with 20 minutes to go.
Bingo! It's my game, says Michael Schumacher.
But Coulthard isn't finished. A banzai lap at the last minute rockets him to pole position.
David Coulthard moves up into pole position. Absolutely fantastic.
Schumacher tries to respond, but he clonks the wall on his last time lap and has to settle for second. So, Coulthard leading the pack on the narrow Monaco grid. Michael Schumacher alongside, Häkkinen and Barrichello supporting them 3rd and 4th. Ralf Schumacher 5th. Irvine, a brilliant 6th. The Jaguar discovering its bite at last. Row 4, Montoya and Trulli. Row 5, Villeneuve and an impressive Fisichella. The Benetton's lack of power, not such a handicap round here. Of the rest, Alesi quids in at 11th. Frentzen unlucky 13th. And Jenson Button really needing to throw a double 6 if he's to hit the points jackpot at Monte Carlo. Stand by then for the Monaco Grand Prix with your commentators Martin Brundle and Murray Walker.
Thanks, Jim. Well, all ready to go. A brilliant pole position for David Coulthard. Michael Schumacher alongside him, then Häkkinen and Rubens Barrichello. And it's all going to be down to getting into the first corner at San... And David Coulthard in trouble. He's stalled. Is he going to have to get away last?
Yeah, Coulthard there, clearly some kind of drama. We don't know if it's driver error or if he's had another one of those technical problems, but Coulthard stranded on the grid, held Häkkinen up slightly. Häkkinen will be able to rejoin his normal grid position, but Coulthard will have to start from the back, Murray.
Yeah, I don't use the word disaster very often, but this really is a disaster for McLaren. Jacking up the back of the car, there's no way he's going to be able to catch them and get anywhere near his proper grid position, even if he was allowed to. So, down to the Mirabeau goes Michael Schumacher, followed by Barrichello. They both moved up a place, of course. Everybody has moved up a place because David Coulthard is going to have to start 22nd and last. The worst possible thing. There he is. The replay. This is a replay of David Coulthard. Fury and despair written all over him.
And Coulthard's only hope is that there's an aborted start, that somebody else stalls their engines, and with an aborted start or a red flag on lap 1, then he may have a chance of resuming his original grid position. But right now, the new lap record holder of this circuit is starting at the tail of the field.
Yeah, well spotted, Martin. That's what David Coulthard must be hoping for. And of course, Michael Schumacher there is now effectively in pole position, smiling all over his face. But as I said before, the same thing has happened to him in the past. But right now, it is Michael Schumacher up front. Mika Häkkinen behind him, now effectively second on the grid. You can see Rubens Barrichello's Ferrari behind Michael Schumacher's. Ralf Schumacher is now effectively 4th on the grid in the Williams, and Eddie Irvine up to 5th position. And there is the unfortunate David Coulthard. Well, teeth gritted, eyes slitted. He's going to have to really get down to it now. In the worst place in the world as the 3rd light goes on, the 4th light goes on, the 5th, and it is go, go, go. Schumacher leads. Schumacher leads into Saint Devot. Are they all going to get around? And there's Montoya trying to go through on the inside. Fingers crossed. David Coulthard has already passed one tail ender. That will be Tasso Marquez. But Schumacher leads, Häkkinen leads, Barrichello leads, Ralf Schumacher 4th in the Williams as they come through Casino Square, down past the Hotel Metropole, turning into the Mirabeau. Now the grand hairpin. That is about a 20-mile-an-hour corner in first gear. And thank heavens, but David Coulthard won't be saying this, they have all got away safely. It's a good start at Monaco, and David is, I was wrong about him passing Tasso Marquez, and he is still last on the track. First on, somebody hit the wall. Somebody hit the wall. Who is it? It looks like a Sauber to me. It is a Sauber.
It's Raikkonen, isn't it?
Yeah.
No,
it's Heidfeld.
Sorry, it's Heidfeld.
Now, this is going to be a problem. There's not a crane there. Look there, you see Heidfeld slam into the wall.
I think there was some contact with the arrows and just launched Heidfeld. Front wheels will be off the ground, no way of turning in or braking. And Coulthard just making his way around the back of the field, just trying to avoid the various disasters, really not attacking on that first lap.
Montoya is flying, Barrichello is flying, Eddie Irvine is in 6th position in the points, and the Jaguar team have yet this year to score a World Championship point. Irvine loves this circuit. He's had a 2nd, a 3rd and a 4th. He was 4th last year. Fingers crossed for him.
Look at those two BMW Williams on their Michelins, hanging on there very, very nicely in 4th and 5th place. Montoya, fastest man on the track last time around. And here is a replay of the start. Coulthard is missing, and really copybook starts for the... we think Montoya's off somewhere.
Yeah, there he is. There he is. It's the exit from the swimming pool. So that's the first retirement. Let's see what happens. Montoya runs wide, outsteps the back, into the Armco, and that is the first right-hander at the swimming pool. He's parked it in a nice, tidy place. There's a crane there. They'll be able to haul the Williams BMW off the track. No points for Montoya.
Yeah, the marshals are particularly good down there, helped by that crane, and they'll operate under waved yellows, which means the drivers must significantly slow down, and that they will have to do, but they will clear that car very, very quickly. Montoya losing it in the first part of the swimming pool, whacking the barrier, launched across the curbs, I think, lost the back end of the car, and finished his accident at the end of the swimming pool. And that is Coulthard cruising up to the back of both the arrows. The problem he's got is he's got to pass them fair and square. He has no advantage of blue flags. If he was lapping them, they'd have to scamper out of the way within 3 corners. And the problem for Coulthard is, as Schumacher and co come through the field and start lapping cars, which they will do several times, many of these cars, then they get the benefit of the blue flags, and Coulthard's got to muscle his way through.
Well, the lead of the 2 orange arrows is Enrique Bernaldi, the Brazilian driver, with his teammate Jos Verstappen tucked up behind him, and David Coulthard looking for a way past both of them, as there is Jenson Button, there is Alonso, here is Bernaldi, followed by Verstappen, followed by David Coulthard in 18th position, into the swimming pool, left-hander, right-hander, right-hander, left-hander coming up, then down to the Rascasse. You can remember what James Allen was saying about how narrow this circuit is, how difficult it is to pass, and if you put your car in just the right position, as Senna did in 92, even if you're Nigel Mansell, you're not going to get past. Well, even if you're David Coulthard and you've got a power advantage over the car in front, it's not going to help you as much as it would in other places. He's just got to harry Bernaldi in front of him, who has been passed, incidentally, by Jos Verstappen. We're riding with Olivier Panis now, chasing the Prost of Jean Alesi as they go round the swimming pool. And just look at this. This is the right-hander here. They take that at about 60 miles an hour on the apex, accelerate up to about 105 miles an hour. Schumacher leads, and Häkkinen's done a fastest lap. The lead is down to 1 second, and Michael Schumacher is now going to have to get past Luciano Berti with the yellow flash on his helmet in the blue Prost car. He is 20th. They're starting to lap them already on lap 13.
So that's a good scrap there. That'll be Panis, Raikkonen, Frentzen, Della Rosa. So you're looking at 10, 11, 12 and 13 with Jenson Button there just in the background.
And that's a very early stop for Panis. Turns into the pit lane. Hopefully we'll have a look and see what it is. I'm amazed that he's come in as early as this. Has he got a problem, or it's
definitely an unscheduled stop, Murray. No way you have a strategy, and a problem with the right rear. Looks like they weren't really expecting him. He has come off the track very, very quickly. So Panis then, maybe he sensed a puncture, maybe he's nerfed the barrier off. We think it could be a puncture. We're hearing from the F1 ITV pit crew, but let's see if he carries on. Sometimes if you've whacked the barrier, you go back out hoping it's all right. Turns out not to be. But Häkkinen then took 3/4 of a second out of Michael Schumacher last time. What's happened? Häkkinen's had a very, according to the computer, a very, very slow mid-sector. And yes, look, he's fallen away a lot, some 6 or 7 seconds.
Oh, hello.
And there's Häkkinen, look, and that was Barrichello. We watched him. So Häkkinen then, very, very slow through the middle part of the previous lap.
And Barrichello, of course, up into second place. Now, that's going to make it even stronger for Michael Schumacher, even harder for Mika Häkkinen, because with 2 Ferraris in front of him, although Rubens Barrichello will be as intent on winning this race as Michael Schumacher is, with Ferrari first and second, you can be very sure indeed that team orders will rule, and we know what team orders in Ferrari means. It means Schumacher wins if he gets the chance.
Well, Häkkinen was coasting out of the tunnel when we picked him up very late in his problem, so whether he's nerfed the barrier or whether he had some kind of ignition cut, we don't know. But he lost some 7 or 8 seconds in the middle of the previous lap, and that's why then Barrichello is up to P2, but he's 7 seconds behind Michael Schumacher.
P2, place 2, lap 14, Schumacher, Barrichello, 7 seconds between them. Mika Häkkinen 2 seconds further back. It's turning out to be a black race for the grey and black McLaren team. David Coulthard 17th, he's ahead of Marquez, he's still behind Bernoldi, and Alonso in the Minardi is an excellent 15th.
Panis in the pits again, so maybe I was right on that. He did whack the wall at some stage, but Häkkinen 5 seconds slower again in the mid part of the lap. So some kind of fuel problem, Murray, and we think Häkkinen has pulled out of the race. So Häkkinen out of the race, bad day so far for McLaren. Coulthard down the back, Häkkinen out. James, what can you tell us?
Well, I'm down here, a complete surprise, his arrival in the pits. Steve Hallam, his chief engineer, was talking to him on the radio. Obviously something to do with the rear suspension they're looking at, maybe an ignition possibly problem, but they were giving him advice on different things he could try. He's hit the barrier, I think. Yes, they're checking the rear suspension to see if there's any damage. He's having problems steering the car, I believe. They were giving him advice over the radio, and suddenly he arrived, and the engine's still running, so he's still possibly, yes, they're going to get him out of it again. They think he's okay to continue.
But he's saying the car's not handling right, and let me tell you, you always, to the merest, finest degree, you know if the car's not right.
David Coulthard pushing, but this is a perfect demonstration of the fact that if you sit on the racing line, the speed differential between the cars here is so small that it's virtually impossible to get past. Mika Häkkinen retires from the Monaco Grand Prix. Yes, he's a previous winner in 1998, he was second in 99, but it has not been his luckiest circuit. We're on lap 24 now, out of 78, and the mice are getting at the machinery. There's been quite a few retirements. Nick Heidfeld is out in the Sauber, Montoya is out in the Williams, Panis in the BAR, Mika Häkkinen has retired, a previous race winner here at Monte Carlo, retired the McLaren. Pedro de la Rosa has stopped the second Jaguar when he was in the top 10, he stopped him in the swimming pool area. Kimi Raikkonen is still staggering round in the second Sauber. Not a good race for the Swiss team, but he's 4 laps behind. Effectively, there are 16 cars and drivers out of the 22 who started, of whom the last is Luciano Berti in the Prost. He's been lapped. Tasso Marquez in the European Minardi has been lapped. He's 15th. David Coulthard still, after all these laps, hasn't been able to get past Enrique Bernoldi. He's in 14th place. Top 10. Michael Schumacher, Barrichello, Ralf Schumacher, Eddie Irvine, a magnificent 4th in the Jaguar, Trulli 5th, Villeneuve 6th, then it's Fisichella, Alesi, Frentzen and Verstappen.
Yeah, the sadness is Coulthard is losing 3 seconds a lap now, stuck behind Bernoldi. The pair of them still the slowest cars on the racetrack. He just cannot clear him. And the irony of that, Murray, is Coulthard's the next man to be lapped. So as soon as Schumacher arrives, the blue flags will be waving. He'll have to leap out of the way, otherwise he'll get a stop and go. But that's when that's probably his best chance of launching past his arrows, which appears to be able to break just late enough to prevent Coulthard getting anywhere near passing him. And there is Michael Schumacher homing in to lap Coulthard. Louise, what can you tell us?
Well, I'm standing with Mika Häkkinen, who's just arrived back in the paddock. Mika, was it a car problem? Did you hit the barrier? Can you tell us what happened?
I didn't hit any barrier or anything. It was just pulling very heavily on the right. And when he was doing that, it was too risky to continue, you know. In acceleration, you come out the corner, went on the gas. Some reason pulled on the right. But the team is checking it what it is. Extremely unusual problem, you see.
It's turning into a nightmare day for McLaren. What's the best that David can hope for today?
Score points.
David Coulthard and Michael Schumacher together, and Schumacher has now lapped David Coulthard in his closing up on Bernoldi.
I think we've got a pretty disgruntled Coulthard there, because he didn't need to let Schumacher go that early. That's giving a lot of help, a lot of respect, but he needed to be right there when Schumacher passed the arrows. So for me, it was his best shot to pass the arrows. Now he's got a better running, but in no way can outbreak him into Saint-Devote, I don't think.
That's a Jordan.
That's Trulli,
out
isn't
he
it?
leaps, and it's Jarno Trulli. Out go the fire extinguishers. Jarno Trulli, and he was the highest Jordan. He was in 7th position, just off the leaderboard. Now, here's a replay.
Yeah, it's an oil fire, so a piston ring or something like that, or an oil line blown off. Probably, I would suspect more likely an oil line or something off under the engine cover there, catching fire on the exhaust pipes. So quite clearly then, Trulli out of the race.
And he had the old rocket-propelled thighs there, straight out of the cockpit. And who can blame him? He will have seen that great gout of flame in his mirrors. And David Coulthard slows right down and lets Rubens Barrichello past.
I think Coulthard's given up on the idea of any points today, because he's being overly nice to the leaders. I mean, I respect that, because he knows what it's like to be leading a Grand Prix and then, or up the sharp end of a Grand Prix, and being slowed down by back markers. But he really is being. But, you know, it does say on the computer screen the blue flags are waving for him. If you pass 3 of them, you get a stop-and-go penalty. So he knows he has to be courteous. I think he's probably being a touch more courteous than he really needs to be.
Is that Fisichella off? Out? Does he hit it? Oh, bang! Out goes the Benetton. And Giancarlo Fisichella.
He might get away with that one. He might just get away with that one, because he nerfed it nice and square on into the tyres. So Fisichella might just survive.
Well, I can tell you that the Arrows team are now getting ready to bring Enrique Bernoldi, who has been holding David Coulthard up for most of the race, into the pits for his scheduled pit stop. We've just seen Verstappen come in. You can see that stuff still fluttering from the left auxiliary wheel, and here is Bernoldi. So at last David Coulthard has got a clear track, so he's ahead of Verstappen. His next target has got to be Fernando Alonso. He's lapping on the previous lap some 7/10 of a second faster, but then he was behind Bernoldi, so now he will really be able to get cracking.
Despite Bernoldi having a yellow lollipop right in his field of vision, he was still trying to drive away with the fuel rig still very much connected, so Bernoldi a touch over eager there. Fisichella then has gone off for a second time in Saint-Devote and clearly will not be getting away with it this time. Serious amount of toe out on that front left. Look there, Murray, and Fisichella finally outbraking himself into Saint-Devote, and this time connecting too hard with that barrier.
Yeah, it's taking that into your friendly garage and saying, can you correct the steering for me? It would be a major problem. Fisichella deserved better than that. He'd already done it once. He'd probably weakened the suspension. He's lost it again at exactly the same place.
New lap record for David Coulthard then, a 1:20.2, and it just shows you the speed he had in the car this afternoon. That is some 4.5 seconds faster than he was able to lap, tucked up behind the arrows, and now immediately homing in on 9th place man Fernando Alonso. But he is some half a minute behind Jenson Button, who's 8th.
And just remember what a fantastic race David Coulthard drove in Brazil to win it, his first victory of this year. And then he went on to win again in Austria. David has won a lot of races in the past. He's had a lot of pole positions in the past. But somehow, it's going to be a surprising thing for you to hear from me, but somehow he didn't quite seem to have it all together the way that he has this year. There has been some sort of transformation, and I think it's a mental thing, a psychological thing, an attitudinal thing. Maybe David's got more belief in himself this year than he had last year, but whatever, that belief is going to have to pay off now as into the pits comes the Minardi. Past goes Jacques Villeneuve in 5th position, And David Coulthard has just done the fastest first sector that anybody has done. He's showing now what he could have done if only he had been able to get away first from pole position.
Yes, and he's passed Alonso in that last lap somewhere. Amazingly, he was some 8 seconds faster than Alonso on the last lap. So Alonso, I think, getting out of the way because he was being lapped by Villeneuve, and Coulthard just searing straight through, and already on a 20.6 second first sector. DC now on the charge we all wanted to see much earlier in this race.
Yeah, he's been lapped, of course, which means to say, surprise, surprise, he will have to do 1 lap less than the people ahead of him in the points, because Michael Schumacher is on his 49th lap now, and it's conceivable that David Coulthard will finish this race. It's not inconceivable that he's going to finish it in the points, because his next target is Jenson Button, and David Coulthard's last lap was 5 seconds faster than that of Jenson Button. So it's not going to take him all that long to reel in the Benetton.
Now you see, Coulthard had to let Villeneuve through with the blue flags because he was tucked up behind Bernoulli. Now he's catching Villeneuve again at some 1.5 to 2 seconds per lap. So Jacques, of course, won't get the blue flag. He's a lap ahead of David. So Coulthard's got a whole different set of problems now of trying to pass cars that are a lap ahead of him.
Hello, that's the other Jordan. That is Heinz Harald Frentzen, 7th position out of the race. That moves Button up to 7th, and significantly it moves David Coulthard up to 8th. That means to say that David is in with a shout of getting a World Championship point, at least one.
I wonder, and apparently Villeneuve's let Coulthard through. They're good mates, and that's a good turn from him. I wonder if Frentzen was having a go at Lacey. He was just a second behind, remember, or if Frentzen's dropped it in the tunnel. You can still end up all the way down there if you get out of shape in the tunnel and slap the wall. Hopefully we'll see a replay of that. That is Barrichello then, your second place man. So Coulthard suddenly, as you say, Murray, does have a bit of a shot at a few points.
Well, it looks as though it might have worked out a little bit for Coulthard. He's not had an awful lot of luck so far this afternoon, but Jenson Button just made his pit stop, and I do believe that David Coulthard is now up into 7th place, just a minute off the points, and the Lacey now pouring into the pit lane just behind me. He'll be back out in front of David Coulthard, but it's game on. I reckon Coulthard can run about another 4 or 5 laps, and we're expecting the Ferraris in around about the same sort of time.
Yeah, Schumacher and Barrichello ought to be reliable. You're watching Jean Alesi now, quite a calm and deliberate pit stop.
Left rear of Alesi's Michelin, they're absolutely bald as a coupe, the one that came off, no grooves left on it whatsoever. That is, I don't think they'll have any regulation problems on that. There's been an understanding on that situation, so Alesi using his tyres to the absolute full.
In comes Michael Schumacher. Barrichello will take the lead, 18 seconds behind him in terms of track position, but then he will have to come in. There you go, there you see Rubens Barrichello in the background as Michael Schumacher goes up to exit the pit lane. Rubens Barrichello goes through to start another lap in the lead now. So Ferrari still leads, Ferrari still second, but the position's reversed. It's Rubinho from Sao Paulo, Brazil, leading Michael Schumacher from Kerpen in Germany. Still on 16 World Championship points for the Constructors' Contest, massively to extend their lead over McLaren, who are still not in the points but not far off it.
That's Villeneuve pitting then for a scheduled stop, I would imagine. Coulthard's charge has been halted slightly by Eddie Irvine. Of course, Irvine lapped Coulthard earlier in the race. Now Coulthard's clear of Bernoulli. As I've said before, he's now charging and got a different problem of trying to pass people who are 1 lap ahead of him.
We now look at Ralf Schumacher in 3rd position, and Eddie Irvine is actually catching the Williams. I don't know what's happened. Neither of them have been in for a pit stop, but Eddie has closed the gap down to 3.5 seconds. It's not inconceivable, although there's some way to go, that the Jaguar could not only be in the points but on the podium. That would be a fantastic encouragement.
There's Ralph then, and then Eddie Irvine just behind him, and the recovering Coulthard also then behind. There they go, all 3 of them coming up the hill then. So 3rd place man Ralf Schumacher, Eddie Irvine 4th, Coulthard now a lap down in 7th position. Irvine on a charge, the gap down to just 2.8 seconds.
Irvine behind him, David Coulthard, and Jacques Villeneuve has left the pits. He's been in for that pit stop. Into the tunnel they go.
Ralph's slow. Ralph's definitely losing some time on his pace earlier on. Look, that gap that was 2.8 at the pit straight last time around. Look at it now. It's just a few tenths.
Eddie Irvine said yesterday, I love this place. I love Monaco. It suits my kind of driving. And of course he's done extremely well here in the past. Third in 1998, second in 99, fourth for Jaguar last year. He's fourth at the moment. He could be third because he's right up and he's passed. He's passed. Eddie Irvine is in a podium position for Jaguar. Oh, I know, the whole of Britain will be having their fingers crossed as in comes Ralf Schumacher, clearly with a problem. But is it a terminal problem?
I wonder if he's got some kind of...
shaking his head.
Wonder if he's a long ways, 58, left 59. James, what can you tell us? Do you think it's fuel?
Yeah, as he came past me, it was definitely the engine was cutting out and he was punching the steering wheel as if that would help. I think they call it percussive maintenance. But anyway, the rear tyres came off. They were completely slick, as were the other ones you noticed earlier on, Martin. But definitely some form of engine problem. Could have been lacking fuel, but it sounded a bit more... they're trying to get it started again now. The rear wheels are spinning. It sounds unhealthy, but he may get going. I don't know.
Well, anyway, Ralf Schumacher retires from the Monaco Grand Prix. It is his 5th retirement in 7 races, and Montoya, of course, was long since out, so not a race that Williams will want to remember. Now, the seconds ticking away. Look at the background, if the producer lets us, as the Ferrari of Michael Schumacher will appear and go through to take the lead. And it was just under 7 seconds. Barrichello goes through, and Michael Schumacher has not yet passed me. Now he does so and just takes the lead as Barrichello exits the pit lane. The order has been restored to what it was before. Michael Schumacher on lap 61 out of 78 retakes the lead in the Monaco Grand Prix, with Rubens Barrichello in second place, some 40 seconds ahead of Eddie Irvine's Jaguar, who is now in the pits.
So Eddie Irvine has had a successful pit stop and returns to 3rd place in the race. We'll be back shortly.
Raikkonen rounds the Rascasse. Now the gap between Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello, and it'll stay that way to the end of the race, provided that they both finish it, and I'm very careful about that caveat, is just about 10 seconds. Eddie Irvine is actually catching Rubens Barrichello in front of him, but there's a 40-second gap between the two of them, and if Irvine can finish in 3rd position, the flags will really be waving at Coventry and everywhere else where Jaguar are powerful.
And still Coulthard doesn't have to come in the pit, so that's 65 laps, at least 66 he will be able to complete, and I think now he will have the gap to Jenson Button that he needs to make that pit stop and retain his 6th place. It'll be reasonably close. Depends how much time he makes on this, and I don't know, who knows when his in-lap is. But Verstappen not threatening Button behind, and as I said, Coulthard can't capture Lacey in front. But really, the crew are pretty well spread out. The teams and drivers well spread out. The only marginal scrap is Villeneuve, just 6.6 seconds behind Irvine in 3rd place.
But only lapping 0.2 of a second faster. Indeed, Eddie Irvine has just responded to the challenge by going 0.2 of a second faster again than Jacques Villeneuve. And he's made his fastest lap of the race to reduce the gap between himself and Rubens Barrichello to well under 40 seconds, and 38 seconds to be exact. Look at David Coulthard revelling now, liberated psychologically as he flings the McLaren round the circuit. Flings it, but being very careful indeed not to fling it into anything. He's just done a 120.6 compared with Michael Schumacher 122.3.
And he'll be in this lap. We saw the mechanics in the pit, in the pit lane, so James, take it over.
Well, at this late stage of the race, Martin, you need 22 seconds It's how much you lose to get back out on the pit lane, and he was 23 seconds ahead of Jenson Button. If any crew can pull this off, it's the McLaren crew. A great stop, and is this going to get him a point?
And the amazing thing is, and there you see Button, David Coulthard is undoubtedly safe. Jenson Button is not going to be able to get through in the time that it takes Jenson Button to get round, and he's done so. So the thing that Martin was drawing our attention to has been safe. There is Button closing down on David Coulthard as the McLaren accelerates back again to race pace. But the problem which potentially faced David Coulthard has been avoided. It looks like he's going to get that one World Championship point, which seemed virtually impossible and so far off, and which he so richly deserves. Rubens Barrichello is 8 seconds behind Michael Schumacher, who seems to me to be pacing himself calmly and in his experienced way to yet another victory. If it is, it will be his 48th Grand Prix in his 150th year, 150th Grand Prix. Eddie Irvine is 36 seconds behind Barrichello, lapping faster but not fast enough to catch him. Jacques Villeneuve is closing on the Jaguar.
Fifth place man Alesi in the pits then for another stop, surprising so late in the race. But Alesi then, your current fifth place man, having to make a late stop.
Now, David Coulthard was 27 seconds behind Alesi. If he can get through before the Prost leaves the pits, it doesn't look to me as though he's going to. It means he could get 2 points instead of 1. Out goes Alesi, and Coulthard has passed me. He's ahead. He's ahead. David Coulthard is now on 2 points instead of 1. You may think that that's not all that exciting, but it really is as far as David Coulthard is concerned. He started in pole position. It was to start in pole position. He couldn't get away. He started last, and he's fought his way up to 5th in
the TV money for the following season. That will be a crucial point. And here's the moment when Coulthard takes 5th. Alesi coming out from that very late stop in the race. Coulthard then, will he slow down a bit now? He's got no chance of catching Villeneuve. Going to be best part of a minute behind. All of that time he lost crucially behind Bernoldi at the beginning of the race. Bernoldi just driving defensively, slowing them all down, and Bernoldi back down in 9th place now, lapping some 4 seconds a lap slower than Coulthard. What a shame Coulthard didn't manage to get past him. I guess my technique of having him off the road may have lost me a wheel or a nose, and at least David, with his patience, is now staring at 2 maybe very crucial World Championship points.
How are the runners and riders doing on lap 72 out of 78? Ferrari are doing famously, thank you very much, say the men from Maranello, because they are first and second with 6 laps to go at the end of this one. Schumacher leading Barrichello by 8 points. Jaguar, they must be having their fingers and everything else crossed, because Eddie Irvine is still in a potential 3rd podium place. His teammate Pedro de la Rosa has long since retired. Jacques Villeneuve is looking good for 3 World Championship points for the BAR team, and Villeneuve has already scored points this season, but his teammate Panis retired a long time ago. David Coulthard, of course, 2 points in the offing. Mika Hakkinen long since disappeared, and Jean Alesi looks as though he's going to get that 1 point for Prost, which Martin has told you is so vital to the team.
Jenson Button in 7th place, but going quite slowly now, so maybe Button's got a problem creeping in these late stages. Alesi hanging on to that 6th place then, Button not in any kind of position to challenge him, it seems.
Michael Schumacher will soon be starting. Indeed, he's on his 76th lap now. So laps 76, 77 and 78. There's going to be no doubt about the winner and 2nd place, provided Schumacher and Barrichello stay where they are. But there could be a real doubt about who is going to be 3rd. The Jaguar of Eddie Irvine or the BAR Honda of Jacques Villeneuve, the 1997 world champion.
And Villeneuve's on a stonking lap. He's 7/10 of a second faster on this current lap than Eddie Irvine. You're watching 5th place man David Coulthard, who is a lap down. And 3 laps remaining, as you can see. So Irvine over the line, and the gap will be down to 2.3 seconds now then. So just 2.3 seconds between Irvine third, Villeneuve fourth.
Yeah, but if Eddie can just keep it up, he looks to me as though he's going to be all right. Villeneuve may close right up on him. But that Jaguar is then going to be 18 metres. Is the course width, is it? Well, if it is, that's how wide the Jaguar is going to be, because Eddie Irvine will just be able to plant it on the fastest racing line, keep it there and say, OK, Jacques, the only way you're going to get past me is to push me off. And the French-Canadian is unlikely deliberately to do that. Lapped, he is 27 seconds behind Jean Alesi. The positions look set. But in 1970, was it, Jacques Brabham in his Brabham came down to the last corner. It was he went off, and Jochen Rindt came through and won the race brilliantly. So it's not over until it's over. But Michael Schumacher knows that as well as anybody as he goes into the tunnel for the 77th time. That is Prince Albert of Monaco. Here again, as he has been all through his life, to watch the Monaco Grand Prix, for which his father, His Serene Highness Prince Rainier, has done so much.
I think Eddie Irvine's done enough. He just put his fastest lap of the race in on a 20.6, 1 minute 20.6, and maintained the gap last time around. So Irvine has done enough, I think, to get that very, very well-deserved podium. And I, for one, will be seriously happy for the Jaguar team.
As we all will. And as Michael Schumacher exits the Rascasse into the Anthony Nogue corner to start his 78th and last lap, and David Coulthard just clips the edge of the road at the chicane, but he's perfectly all right there. Michael Schumacher, 1 lap to go.
Yeah, I tell you, just clip the edge of those curves. Remember, the car runs about half an inch high off the ground only, and you're sitting on the floor of it. I can tell you, it brings tears to your eyes, one of those things, and it trashes the underfloor. That's probably 20 grand's worth of carbon fibre just gone underneath that. It looked a pretty simple incident. Outbraked himself at the chicanes, been pushing very, very hard, but of course he doesn't want to go across there if he can help it. You can sometimes be penalised.
Michael Schumacher's 5th Monaco win and his 48th career win coming up. Another glorious 1-2 for the Maranello concern of Ferrari. And that will mean 16 Constructors' Championship points, 10 Drivers' Championship points for Michael Schumacher, who is allowing Rubens Barrichello, as Schumacher looks in the mirrors, to close right up on his rear wing. It's going to be a formation finish, as you predicted, Martin. Into the swimming pool and out of it for the last time. Schumacher has only now got to go round the Rascasse, which he is at. First gear, 20 miles an hour. Coasted home, Michael. And around the Anthony Nogue corner, up comes Rubens Barrichello. Schumacher wins in Monaco. Barrichello is second, right behind his team leader. 16 points for Ferrari, 10 for Michael Schumacher, 6 for Barrichello. What about third place?
Yeah, well, that was the photo for all the albums at the end of the year. The show finish there from Ferrari, 1-2 over the line, and Irvine then clearly is comfortably going to take that final podium position. And James Allen was pointing out, as the Stewart team, they've had their first podium here. Now Jaguar, that team morphed into Jaguar, and their first podium then over the line in Monte Carlo. Villeneuve fourth.
Well done, Eddie Irvine. That is a brilliant drive. He's had a lot of criticism this year, and he has phlegmatically struck to his last, and he's paid off. But you can see now Jenson Button pursued by the Sauber, but they're on different laps, of course. And the Monaco Grand Prix victory in the year 2001 goes to Ferrari and Schumacher, with Barrichello and Ferrari in second place.
And hello again from Monaco, the massive Italian contingent here. Delighted by a Ferrari 1-2, Michael Schumacher leading home Rubens Barrichello. Eddie Irvine putting the Jaguar on the podium for the very first time. 2 points, though, scant reward, really, for pole sitter David Coulthard.
Yeah, it was very frustrating behind Enrique. He was doing his job, but clearly he was so slow. It was just very difficult not to take a big risk. But unfortunately, every time I tried to do a dive, then he was closing the door quite late, I felt. which I guess he's entitled to do, but it just meant I had to sit there. It was inevitable that I would eventually get past, but it just was a long wait, and then I was able to push when I had clean air, and that obviously gained me the spaces to get in front of the other arrows in the Benetton.
I was wondering that the race was going on for so long, because when you're only there, it never seems to end. You really would like to finish after 10 laps. But, well, anyway, it was hard work, because you really need to finish, you really need to concentrate, and in some ways it's harder than being in a fight, because then you don't think about anything, you just fight and you drive naturally. This is a bit of an unnatural driving.
Well done, Eddie. Has the big cat finally found its claws?
She's been saving that one up. I can see you thinking about 2 hours about that one last night. We see. This one's, it's too early to say, you know. We qualified well here. The car's been good all weekend. Canada's a very different circuit. If we go well in Canada, that will then tell us we're going to go well at all the circuits really from now on. But we got to keep working. You know, this floor has been really in development since the beginning of the season. That's far too long. You know, we need wind tunnels in England, and we need more manufacturing. We need more of everything just to be able to keep this development going. If you don't do that, you fall back again until you find the next big step.
Bobby, many congratulations. How does it feel?
Oh, fantastic. Very happy for the team back home, and proud of these guys. And you know, we're getting there. I hope this isn't the last we see of this, but Eddie drove a great race and the car performed flawlessly. Cosworth did a great job. We're just very happy for everybody.
It's not over yet, but a little bit more difficult, I guess, after this weekend.
Yeah, of course it gets more difficult when they open points, but I can only do my best, and I believe I've done that this weekend, and the rest is down to the racing god. So at the moment he gets the luck, and maybe in Montreal it'll be me.
Let's just confirm the result for you. 10 out of 10 for Michael Schumacher. Rubens Barrichello following his teammate home. Good to see Eddie Irvine on the podium again. Villeneuve with 3 more points for BAR. Just a couple for David Coulthard. And Alesi's first point for 24 races. Michael Schumacher's 5th Monaco win. Only Ayrton Senna with 6 has won more. The German now 12 points clear of Coulthard. Barrichello a clear 3rd. Ralf Schumacher, he just can't finish here. Villeneuve's best ever Monaco, generating 3 points. A 16-point maximum taking Ferrari well clear in the constructors. No change for Williams or for Jordan. Villeneuve takes BAR above Sauber because of that 3rd place in Spain. Okay, Tony, David Coulthard, dreadful at the start. What happened to him there?
Well, pole hero to 0, go to the back and start again. Incredible frustration for him. I suspect that he may have gone off a manual start for the formation lap. Then the transition, the software, when he needs to go onto launch control after that, it should have taken over. There's an anti-stall mechanism on there. Maybe there's a bug in the system still, although it was bug-free, said David Coulthard. Otherwise, it's finger trouble for the driver, as it was with Mika Häkkinen not so long ago in Austria. We'll have to wait and find out, Jim.
We'll have to wait and find out. The bottom line is, though, those cars just should not stall. They spent hours and hours, days and days testing to make sure that doesn't happen.
Well, this again is the frustration thing, because they've done so many practice starts. Because of the danger here, after every practice session they were doing launch control starts. They were launch control starts. This is going from the manual through to the launch control, switching from one to the other, whether it's procedural or whether it's in the software. Bring back Bill Gates, I say.
People will say it was a very straightforward Monaco Grand Prix, and 1 or 2 spectacular incidents, though.
Oh, I'm not at all. I mean, the aggressive driving of Juan Pablo Montoya comes out fighting, doesn't he? And despite all their massive amount of wins, 69 wins for Honda, all the development still has to go on. And unfortunately, up goes the engine, but they got 3 good points with Jacques Villeneuve. Giancarlo Fisichella slapping the wall there. And later on, at the very same place, Sandoval, he was to go out. And he's normally a podium man here, a good street fight driver.
In Britain, thousands and thousands of people would be cursing the Brazilian Bernaldi, but he was quite within his rights what he did to David Coulthard.
He was, but it's more a case of Coulthard sitting it out and being patient. Imagine what he was feeling. I should be potentially winning this race. I should be potentially looking at 10 points. And he could have boiled over easily. He could have really, really seen red and had a go. If that was Montoya, he would have tried to shunt Benaldi off at the start, probably. That's the difference in between. That's the difference in the attitude this year to David Coulthard. Taking stock, taking control, you know, and he gets points at the end of it.
Eddie Irvine always goes well around Monaco, and great to see Fast Eddie up on the podium again.
It was great because at the Monaco ball last night, I was hosting thing, and he smashed all these glasses off the track. I said, don't do that tomorrow. He said, no way, no way. You know, he was really up for it. The glint was in the eye last night as he says, I love this place. And as Ralf Schumacher pulled in with problems, there Eddie Irvine heads towards the first ever podium for Jaguar. And it's a shame for Ralf because he's had a poor record here. He gashed his leg last year. But for Irvine and Jaguar, I think it's sensational.
David Coulthard remains very much in the hunt. We thought for a while it was going to be 1 point. He ended up, though, with a couple.
Well, Jean Lazy came in for this late pit stop, whether they needed a splash and dash, whatever the little problem was. He'd come in, but at this point, just coming around was David Coulthard, there, straight across the nose of the Prost. So 2 points for David Coulthard, but Prost still get their first championship point of the year, so it's good for them.
Got to finish off by talking about Michael Schumacher. An easy drive, really, along the Riviera for him, and nothing on the brow at the end, just a wink.
I noticed there was 4 or 5 hairs out of place, maybe. So, you know, it was very, very hot day out there, not just for the driver, for the machinery. But it's double red for Ferrari. They did the 1-2, remember, with Irvine in '99. Done it again here with Barrichello. I think it's superb for Ferrari. It's going to be tough to catch them.
OK, Tony, thank you very much indeed. Well, our next port of call, bit of a long haul for us. We go to Canada, and you can see the qualifying 11:25 p.m. on the Saturday night. The race live at a superb time, really, 5:15 on the Sunday afternoon, and highlights just after midnight. Well, really, David Coulthard lost 8 points today. He is playing catch-up with the streetwise Mr. Monaco, Michael Schumacher, as we head for Canada. Thanks very much for watching. Good night to you all.